All right, it is time to talk about sorting objects, or rather, sorting objects using a variable on that object. So obviously objects are a little bit more complicated than, your primitive data types, your integers and things like that. So what we're going to do is, and I've got a couple of bubble sorts here. Let me grab another bubble sort here. There we go. I'll just call this bubble sort with an int, bubble sort with a string. There we go. So we don't really need the string for this. So you really just need to copy over very simple bubble sort with your integer for this. Just going to comment this out, and I'll just go ahead and pull up my fill and all that other stuff too. Make sure that's copied over for what we're going to do. Actually, no, I don't need that. Never mind. I'm getting ahead of myself. So let's just comment out everything, just make a new project, and all you'll need is your simple bubble sort for right now. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to make an array of objects, and each object's going to have one simple variable on it, and we're just going to talk about how to sort that one object, or how to adjust our sorts so we can sort that one object, I should say. So first and foremost, I'll come over here and I will make a new class, and we're just going to call it simple box. There we go. I've got a box. My box will have a simple integer on it. Public int, we'll just call it size. Constructor, public box, int size. This dot size equals size. Inbox class, inbox constructor. Now if I want it to have some other little things on it, I could do that. Potentially, I guess I could just, let's see, we could have a print and a couple of other things here. Let's just go ahead and do that. Public, and then minus the static. Public void print. And all this is just going to do is just print the box's size is plus size. There we go. Simple, but as simple as we can go. Our box has a size. We could have several other variables on there if we wanted to. Name, whatever's in it, whatever we want. But we're going to keep it as simple as we can. Now we're going to use this size variable to sort things. Now I could make a variable called getSize, public int getSize if I had this thing set to private. Mine is currently set to public, so it really depends. If I set this to a private variable, then in order to get the size, I would have to use the getSize. If I leave it public, then I can just directly say, hey, this is this thing's size. So I'll just show you how that works. Now, we got a box. Now it's time to create a box array. So, box array equals new box, and let's just make it very simple, 5. And then I have to fill, of course, the array. Array 0 equals new box. And let's just go with 5. And I'll just do this for every one of these. 1, 2, 3, 4. And we'll make each of these kind of a random assortment of sizes. There we go. So now I've got an array of boxes. And of course they're in, kind of not sequential order. So I'd kind of like this bubble sort to work with that. So instead of passing an int array, I'm going to pass a box array. And you'll see instantly everything breaks, of course. That's fine. Instead of an int temp, it's going to be a box temp. and I'll just make that null to start with, because I'm basically shuffling boxes around and not the individual variables. Now, instead of array ji, which is a box, I'm going to say, now, if this is public, I can say dot size. If it's private, I can say get size. It's probably better to do the get size, but either way would work. And everything else just kind of stays the same. I just swap as normal. So the only big change you have to make here is these are boxes, and we're using either the size or the get size variable. That's pretty much it. So if I make a little simple for loop, and we'll just print this just to see first. For int I equals 0, I less than array.length, I plus plus. And I just basically say array I dot print. And I should see the exact array I've got. Now if I want to sort it, bubble sort. And I called it array, so I'll pass array up. Lo and behold, 1, 3, 4, 5, 9. I can sort the individual boxes. Now, it's important to keep in mind that it is actually moving the boxes, or the pointers to the boxes, not the numbers on the boxes. If I made this an int and that an int, I would be swapping the numbers and not the entire box. Which means if there's other variables and stuff on there, you'd only be swapping that number around and not the whole thing. So what I have to swap, since it's a box array, is the fact it's a box. I have to swap the box and not the number. Now, of course, I could adjust this with any other sort we've made. You know, Q sort, it would be a box. You know, most of this would still be the same. Now, int lower index, higher index would still be integers. The only major difference here is, you know, I would come in here and say, instead of, well, the pivot value is still the pivot value. Let's see what else we can change. Here we go. That would be, you know, dot get size. Dot get size. So we'd have to adjust a couple of things here. Most of this would kind of stay the same. Exchange numbers would obviously be, we're exchanging boxes instead of integers. So I'd be passing 2 boxes, and I'd swap them. Merge sort, well, these would be box arrays. And this number would still be a number because it's the size. So I would leave that the same. It would be box values, and all this would basically stay the same once you made that change. I'd come in here, low and high, passing 2 numbers. And this is basically just going to split our array up. And this is where the actual work's going to happen. So I'm just moving some stuff back and forth. But here is probably where I would want to check my stuff. It would be box.getSize. And this would be, well, exactly the same. Wouldn't have to change anything. The only place you'd have to change is these comparisons here. That would be fine because we're just checking those number locations. Bubble sort's the easiest, but you could also go in here and adjust it for these others. And you should, you know, a nice little extra exercise. You got a box. We've already done bubble sort for this. Go in there and add in selection sort and make sure that works. Add in the next one. Make sure it works. That way you can basically make this work for anything. And of course, you know, we had that arrays.sort. Well, I hate to say it, but I'm pretty sure arrays.sort, this probably won't work for our boxes. Now, it looks like it works, but should I run it, I'll immediately get a crash. Because my box is basically a container that can hold a bunch of variables. This sort isn't designed for that. It's designed for, very specifically, dot sort, bytes, characters, doubles, floats, ints, longs, shorts. There are a couple of other things in here we could attempt, but really it's not set up for that. We might be able to use something in here perhaps, I don't know, but since our object is basically a container, we kind of have to make our own for this. There are ways we could use arrays.sort though. Uh, we'd have to make a whole little method and stuff for it though. For the size we're dealing with here, it's just simpler just to grab a simple sort. Shell sort, for example, would be the fastest. Uh, Loop sort we could probably adjust and just use that instead. Doop, like so. 1, 3, 5, 4, 5, 9. There we go. Works. So that is essentially how we can adjust our sorts that we already have to sort objects. Now, of course, if we used the sorter that we created, it would be the same thing, except it would be a box array here instead of, it would be a box array here instead of just integers. That would be the major difference. You always have to adjust depending on what you're using. All right, well, that is how you sort objects. Have any questions or anything? Feel free to let me know.